Alright, sorry about that brief interruption there, but getting back to it. So, everything on this page, again, nothing you really do need to change. Modifiers, leave, public, private, whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. So, overall, basically just figure out your name, and then if you want to do a picture, and then just make sure that's milestoned and fixed, manual, whatever you want to do. I'd say fixed, just make it easier. So then you go on to the next page. Race. I have a few extra unlocked just from things I've bought in the past or things that I've done. But overall for this one, I think it would... Stormcoast is pretty good for having a variety of races. So you could get away with most things that aren't too crazy. Pretty much everyone wants to do a tiefling. I don't suggest it unless you have a really good reason. But overall, I would say have a good reason if you want to do a weird race, like the bird people, the dragonborn, genasi. So if you want to do one of those, just come up with a good way that you ended up in more standard civilization. But for this, we're just going to go ahead and do elf. Why not? And you'll see I have 4 different types. Since we're more of a city elf, we'll just go with wood elf and say somehow I ended up getting to the city. Maybe I live in more of a wilderness type of town, something like that. I don't know. We can get more into the background later, but basically it's just going to give you your racial traits, and then if you want to read more about them, you can come down and see everything. So, big one, just for role-playing, elves don't sleep. Wisdom goes up 1. Here's all the different... You can walk 35 feet, you have all these different weapons, and then you can do this where you can attempt to hide. And so every race has their own cool things. I would say if you have one you really want to do, go for it. Otherwise, maybe figure out what class you want to do, and then there's different races that work better with it. That depends how much you want to metagame and really get your character to be the best possible. But there's no problem with going with a class that gives dex and then going with something that doesn't use dexterity at all. So for this, we'll just go ahead and choose that. Again, if you want to read about everything, this will bring you to that page, but that's just all there is to choosing race. Pick whatever sticks out to you. Then we get to class. So class is obviously going to be the biggest choice for your character. And with this, the one thing I do want to make really clear is do not worry if somebody else got in before you, pick the class that you think you wanted to try. I don't care if you are all the same thing. I think it'd be more fun if you aren't. But if 2 of you are paladin or 2 of you are a monk, go nuts. Like, that's not going to throw things off. Don't feel like everybody else went with melee fighter, so I got to go with like a healer, or I got to go with a magic user. That's just not how it is. I've only been part of 2 campaigns, but one of them, it was a barbarian, wizard, monk, and rogue, and it was super entertaining. With how short rest works, you really don't need a healer anymore, and I think that's why, so you can get kind of crazy with it. But we'll say with me being a wood elf, wood elves love nature, so I'm just going to say I'm a druid. And once again, wisdom is what they really want. Intelligence and wisdom, they're 2 biggest things. So technically wood elf might not be the best for maximizing character usage, but it works for actually thinking the character through. I live in the woods, my people are from the woods, and I love everything that's being a druid. So when you go to pick a class, this will tell you everything you're going to get at every level. 1st level, 2nd, 4th, 8th, yada yada. So most levels, most classes at 2nd level get where they can really choose their specialization. So for druids, that's druid circle. Every class has it a little bit differently, but that's where you really get to pick if you want to go more for doing spells, or if you want to really focus on changing into animals. And every class is going to be a little different, but 2nd level is where you're going to make that choice for most of them. I think warlock and maybe one other are the only ones that don't have that, but this is where you can really look it over, make sure it all sounds like it's for you. Again, don't overwhelm yourself. You don't have to read anything if you don't want. You can just read the very simple, basic first couple level stuff. So whatever you want to do, and nothing's set in stone until we start the campaign. Happy to go over anything, but main reason I wanted to get to this part is hit points. Doesn't matter, nothing you're going to do there. The only thing you need to do anything with is when you see this little blue exclamation. So proficiencies, it's going to ask you to choose what you're proficient in. So these are just different skills that are going to come up as you play the game. So sure, nature. Again, I'm a wood elf. Nature makes sense for me. And then I'll say my person's very good at survival because they learned how to live out in the wilderness. Again, very basic, but just kind of showing you the basic rundown. As you go through different levels, this is where, again, you'll get to make your picks and actually do different things. But for now, we are going to start at level 1. So just leave level 1 as the default. Pick whatever it asks you to, and move on to the next thing, which is going to be abilities. So this one I do want everybody to just do standard array. Point buy can lead to too much min-maxing, and manual/rolled, you can just have the most overpowered or weakest character. Standard's just a good mix. It'll give you exactly the same as everybody else gets, where you get these to choose from and assign. So you just want to know what you want to be strong in and what you want to be weak in. Again, it said wisdom's going to be most important, so I'll go ahead and do that there. It said intelligence would be important, so I'll do that there. I don't think I'd be very strong. I think I'd be a little more quick, so I'm going to just give strength the lowest. I'd say I'm kind of a weirdo. The elves have their own way of doing things, and probably not the most charismatic person or elf to get along with, so I'm going to keep that a little lower. And then con and dex. I'll say again, I'm not the most beefy person, so con will be that, and then dex will be that. As simple as that. There's a lot of resources I'm happy to share where it can show you how to best do this, or how you can really do it if you want your character to be the best possible version, but it can be as simple as I just did it. The one thing I will say is your class will tell you what's the most important. You usually put that at the highest, unless for RP reasons you just really want. I don't care, wisdom's the most important. I have the strongest elf in the world, and that's his big thing. Probably shouldn't have gone druid then, but that's alright. Whatever you guys want to do, it's an interesting character. So, description. This is where you can actually get into your person and customize them. Here are all the backgrounds that I have unlocked for you. And with that, I would recommend choosing one of them instead of trying to do something custom. They have a lot of really good ones, a lot that really fit whatever you're looking for. But, for example, let's say I'm a hermit. I lived in a very sheltered community in the woods, and so I'm kind of awkward, as I mentioned, with low charisma. I've really only learned how to live within this small group of elves, and again, elves live a long-ass time, so maybe I'm like 100 years old and finally decided to try and get out in the world, but overall it's going to make me a little bit strange. And you can see as you go through each of these, even just quick like I did without having any idea, character kind of starts to come into their own. So hermit's one. If I want to be less, I could say that I'm folk hero, and I started out just living in here. There was an attack on a town nearby. Me and my group saved it. Several other elves died. I came out, so now I'm a folk hero. Whatever you want to do, but that's the basic. I think hermit fits. They're all going to change up proficiencies and some other things, so it's going to ask for this. I'm going to say so tool proficiencies. I'm going to say for me, my person's going to be good. Sure, pan flute. I think Agatha can play the pan flute, and why, I have no idea, but we're just going to roll with it. There's a lot of other interesting ones. We can dive further into them. Usually they're nothing too crazy, like jewelers and leatherworkers tools. We can really dive into what that would look like. I've never done that before, so I'd be learning with you, but there are different things like that. You can be a brewer, alchemist, all sorts of stuff, or you can just be like me and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to do a different instrument. We'll just see how that goes. So there you go. For language, pretty much every background's going to give you some sort of language option. I don't know if everybody needs to do this, and I don't think necessarily everybody should, but somebody in the party should have giants as a language. as it's going to be a big part of this campaign. And if nobody has it, then there's going to be a lot of issues. So somebody should come up with that. The only thing I'll say is make sure you have a reason for it. So, for example, this Agatha character, the elves lived in the woods. They've learned how to interact with the giants. They've gotten along over the centuries great, and she's fluent in it now. Simple as that. Whatever you want to do, but somebody should have that. So then you get into this, and it doesn't have the little exclamation like before because it's not technically required, but I think it's really good for helping to flesh out your character. So here you can roll for it, D8, D6, whatever you want to do, or you can just pick two that speak to you. So I don't think my druid was this bad, where they don't even speak and they just do gestures, but I'm just going to say I can get very lost in thoughts and become oblivious to what's going on, and I'll say she's very wise and was always kind of a leader in the community. Simple as that. Everything else you're just going to pick one. Ideals, I do not want any evil characters. So I'm going to put that out there now. I think it just derails everything and it's not going to work for this one. So try and keep it pretty standard. Neutral, lawful, good. Chaotic can get a little crazy if you really play into it. So try and keep it more in those realms. So I'll just say logic is the big thing there. She just thinks everything should follow what's right and true. That's what the elves have taught her. Bonds, whatever you want to do. I'll just say it goes along with your background as well. So I'll say here, nothing's more important to me than the elves that I lived with, and flaws. I like keeping secrets, sure. So now with that, you can kind of pick this. So I did lawful, so I'll just say lawful neutral. They're not necessarily good, they're not necessarily bad, they just follow the law of what they think they should, and law is law, they can roll with it. Please do not do chaotic evil. Chaotic neutral and good, if you can avoid it, unless you really want to, please just try and do either neutral or lawful, and then just avoid the evils because it just derails everything. The rest is more up to you. They have a poor lifestyle, they lived in the woods. Faith, it's just kind of flavor. Physical characteristics, personal, fills in with what you've already chosen, and then notes, whatever you want to do. So this is up to you how much you want to flesh them out. I can give allies, organizations, I can say I'm part of the Boy Scouts, and we really care about the woods and everything. Allies is everyone in my clan of elves. Enemies, maybe there's a group we clash with. Backstories where you can really delve into it. With backstory, the only thing I'm going to say, do not go too crazy. Don't give them thousands of battles and all of that. They're level 1. They're going to be pretty short with what has happened. I'll let you guys know that you are going to be part of the town guard. That's how you all know each other and all come together. So how you got there is up to you, and that can be the backstory, but you don't join the town guard as this crazy person who's done tons of adventures. You're pretty raw recruit. So whatever else you want to add in there, totally up to you. And one thing I want each of you to do, just because I think it adds fun, feel free to ignore me, but in like other or somewhere in there, just add a weird quirk for your character. So one, for example, could be you don't understand sarcasm or you don't understand hyperbole. So if somebody says anything sarcastic or anything that's way over the top, it's just like you believe it at face value. There's nothing else to it. So I just think something as simple as that, or anything you can come up with where it just gives you an extra opportunity to role play, it really helps, especially with newer players. It just gives you something to like keep an eye out for and look for, and I think it just makes it fun and makes it easy to jump in, just so you get to do whatever your funny quirk is. So that whole page is good to go. Finally, equipment. Please do not do gold. It's super complicated. You can really go all out. So just keep it simple. Choose equipment, and then it walks you through each and everything. So I'm going to say they have a druidic focus. You made a shield out of a tree that they found that had been struck by lightning, something like that. Any simple, they just have a spear and shield, why not? And then it'll give you all these things, just leave them, add, and it'll put everything in there for you. And then you can click next, and you are done. View the character sheet, and that is it. So I know that may seem like a lot if I rambled a little bit in here. On Thursday, I'll jump on and happy to talk with anybody if they want help or if they want to dive into anything. But that's basically it. And then we can go over how to actually do everything. But that's how to make your character. And yeah, hope that helped out somebody. And I'll add the main points for anyone that doesn't want to watch this whole thing. So thanks, everybody.